Commander Veltar stood in front of the massive viewing window. His crystal body caught the light from 3 different suns. The recruitment station orbited a green planet called Kepler 442b. This was his 5th year running recruitment operations. He had seen many species join the Galactic Military Consortium. Most were easy to work with. They followed orders. They understood their place in the universe. Today was different. Today he was meeting creatures from a world the computers called Sol 3. The locals called it Earth. The classification made Veltar's crystal structure vibrate with concern. Classe Loisand. Deathworld. Only 12 planets in known space carried that terrible rating. "Sir, the transport ship has arrived," said his assistant, a floating blob of gas named Morton. "The humans are ready for processing." Veltar turned away from the window. He had read the reports about Earth. The planet was a nightmare. It had weather that could kill. The ground shook without warning. Water fell from the sky in amounts that could drown cities. Storms with winds fast enough to tear apart buildings. Ice that covered entire continents. Heat that could cook flesh. Worse. Yet, Earth had creatures that hunted other creatures for food. The humans lived alongside beasts with sharp teeth and claws. They shared their world with tiny life forms that caused diseases. Plants that could poison them grew everywhere. The ocean had animals large enough to swallow whole ships. How did anything survive on such a world? How did the humans become smart? Enough to build spaceships? Most species needed calm, stable worlds to develop intelligence. Earth seemed designed to kill everything that lived there. The recruitment protocols were clear. Deathworld species made good shock troops. They were hard to kill. They could take pain. They would fight without fear. The galactic military needed soldiers like that for the war against the Void Swarm. The swarm consumed everything in its path. Regular troops often ran away when they saw what the swarm could do. Deathworld troops might stand and fight. Veltar walked toward the processing center. The plan was simple. Give the humans basic training. Give them cheap weapons and armor. Send them to the worst battles. If they lived, good. If they died, at least they would take some enemies with them. It was not kind, but the galaxy was at war. Hard choices had to be made. The first human walked into the room. He was shorter than Veltar expected. His skin was brown and his hair was black. He moved with careful steps, looking at everything around him. His eyes were dark and alert. This one was called Day. "Welcome to the Galactic Military Consortium," Veltar said in standard galactic language. Translation software would help the human understand. "You have been selected for military service. Your world has been classified as suitable for combat. Recruitment." Day nodded slowly. "I understand. What kind of combat?" The question surprised Veltar. Most new recruits asked about pay or living conditions. This human wanted to know about the fighting. "You will face the Void Swarm. They are parasites that consume worlds. Very dangerous enemies." "What weapons do we use against them?" Again, straight to the important questions. Veltar showed D a standard plasma rifle. It was an older model, reliable but not powerful. Good enough for cannon fodder troops. Day picked up the weapon. His hands moved over. It with knowledge. "This uses contained plasma in a magnetic bottle, right? The targeting system is optical with some computer help?" He turned the rifle over, looking at the power pack. "How many shots before reload?" Veltar's crystal body flickered with confusion. How did this primitive creature understand plasma technology? Earth had just discovered basic space travel. They should not know about magnetic containment or optical targeting systems. 40 shots per power pack, Veltar answered. Day nodded and set the rifle down. The power coupling looks inefficient. You're losing about 15% of your energy to heat waste. Also, the magnetic bottle could be smaller if you adjusted the field strength. That would give you maybe 10 more shots per pack. This was impossible. The weapon design was created by the galaxy's best engineers. Species with thousands of years of experience had built these rifles. A human from a primitive death world could not improve them in 5 minutes. The second human entered the room. This one was female, with long black hair tied back. Her movements were precise, like a person used to working with delicate things. She was called Hana. Medical officer? She asked, looking at the red symbols on Veltar's uniform. I am a commander, not medical. Why do you ask? You have stress fractures in your crystal matrix, probably from exposure to high-energy fields. It might cause problems with light refraction later. You should have that looked at. Veltar stared at her. He had not told anyone about the pain in his body structure. The medical scans were private. How could she see what trained doctors had missed? Hana walked over to a wall panel. Medical supplies were stored behind it for emergencies. This is interesting. You use biogel for healing? We have something similar on Earth, but we make it from seaweed. Your version looks more advanced, but I think our base ingredients might work better for some injuries. She opened one of the containers and smelled the contents. Synthesized proteins and growth factors. Smart design. Do you have problems with rejection reactions in different species? Veltar could not answer. This human was asking questions that only trained doctors should know about. She understood advanced medical science just by looking and smelling. The third human arrived. This one was young, maybe early 20s. He had bright eyes and moved with quick energy. His name was Jin. Jin looked around the room with obvious interest. Nice station. The artificial gravity feels different from ship gravity. You're using rotating sections instead of field generators? How do you know about artificial gravity? Veltar asked. We've been thinking about it for space travel. Rotation makes more sense than trying to create gravity fields. Less power needed. Jin walked over to a window and looked out at space. Your ships use fusion drives? I can see the engine glow. But you're not using straight fusion, are you? Something more advanced. He turned back to Veltar. Sorry. I know I asked too many questions. I'm an engineer back home. Well, I was training to be one. This is all very exciting. Veltar felt his crystal structure vibrating with confusion and something that might have been fear. These humans were not what the reports had said. Yes, they came from a death world. Yes, they were probably tough fighters. But they were also smart. Very smart. They understood technology that should be completely foreign to them. The recruitment protocols assumed Deathworld species would be primitive. Strong but simple. Good for taking orders and fighting. These humans asked questions that made Veltar think. They saw things that trained experts missed. They understood complex ideas just by looking at them. Morton floated up beside him. Sir, there are 47 more humans waiting to be processed. Should we continue with standard protocols? Veltar looked at Day, who was now sketching improvements to the plasma rifle on a piece of paper. He looked at Hana, who was reading medical files on a computer terminal and making notes. He looked at Jin, who had somehow gotten access to the station's engineering systems and was studying power flow diagrams. No, Veltar said quietly. I think we need different protocols. These are not standard Deathworld recruits. The war against the Void Swarm had just become much more interesting and much more dangerous for the enemy. The military training facility on Sector 7 Moon had trained recruits from 63 different species. Drill instructor Kexalon knew how to handle them all. The floating jellyfish creatures needed water breaks every hour. The rock people required high-temperature environments. The insect soldiers worked best in groups. Every species had their needs and weaknesses. The human recruits were different. They seemed to need everything and nothing at the same time. Kexalon watched Day during weapons training. The standard course taught recruits to use plasma rifles in 8 weeks. Point, aim, shoot, reload. Simple steps that most species could follow. Day learned it all in 3 days. By the 4th day, he was taking apart his rifle during breaks. "What are you doing, recruit?" Kexalon asked. "The cooling system is inefficient," Day said, not looking up from his work. "The plasma gets too hot after 20 shots. I can fix that by changing how the magnetic field flows." "Those weapons are made by the best engineers in the galaxy. You cannot improve them." Day looked up and smiled. It was a strange expression that humans made when they were amused. "Want to bet?" He put his rifle back together and walked to the firing range. Other recruits stopped their training to watch. Day began shooting targets. After 20 shots, normal rifles would overheat and need to cool down. Day kept shooting. 30 shots, 40 shots, 50 shots. The rifle never overheated. "How?" Kexalon asked. "I moved some parts around. The heat spreads out better now. The rifle cools itself while you shoot." Day looked at the smoking targets downrange. "Also, I think I improved the accuracy by about 12%. The magnetic bottle holds tighter. Now." Kexalon stared at the rifle. In 3 days, this human had done what teams of engineers could not do in months. He made notes to report this to his superiors. In the medical training section, Hana was causing different problems. The course taught basic first aid for different species. Stop bleeding. Treat shock. Give medicine. It usually took 6 weeks for recruits to learn the basics. Hana finished the course in 1 week. She spent the remaining time studying the medical computers and talking to the facility doctors. By the 3rd week, she was teaching other recruits things that were not in the standard courses. "Each species has different blood chemistry," she explained to a group of mixed recruits. "But the basic ideas are the same: oxygen transport, waste, removal, infection fighting. If you understand the principles, you can help anyone." She showed them how to modify medical equipment for different body types. A healing pad made for insect soldiers could work on jellyfish creatures if you changed the chemical settings. Emergency medicine designed for rock people could help crystal beings like Commander Veltar. The facility doctors were amazed. This human understood medicine in ways that took them decades to learn. She saw connections between different species that trained experts missed. "Where did you learn this?" asked Dr. Pilnex, a senior medical officer. "Earth has many different kinds of life," Hana said. "We learned to study them all: plants, animals, tiny organisms. Once you understand how life works, the details are just variations on the same theme." Jin caused the biggest disruption in flight training. The course taught pilots to fly standard fighter ships. The ships were designed to be safe and reliable. They had computer systems that prevented dangerous maneuvers. Most recruits needed 12 weeks to learn basic flying skills. Jin was flying combat missions by week 4, but he was not following the rules. "Recruit Jin, you are exceeding safe speed limits," his instructor radioed during a training flight. "The bows. Ship can handle it," Jin replied, spinning his fighter through a series of turns that should have been impossible. The safety limits are set too low. This ship could probably go 50% faster without any problems. Those limits exist, for good reasons. Return to base immediately. Jin landed his fighter and met with the flight instructors. They were not happy. You broke 17 safety protocols in one training flight, said Instructor Yextor. You could have been killed. But I wasn't, Jin said. The ship handled everything fine. Look, I know you're trying to keep us safe, but these limits are based on average pilot skills. What if someone is better than average? He pulled up the flight computer data. See? The engine stress never went above 60% maximum. The hull pressure stayed in normal ranges. The only problem was with the computer warnings, not the actual ship performance. The instructors looked at the data. Jin was right. The ship had performed perfectly, even during maneuvers that the safety systems said were impossible. How did you know the ship could do this? Yextor asked. I read the technical manuals, Jin said. Really read them. The ships are built much stronger than the safety systems allow. It's like having a race car, but only driving it at grocery store speeds. Within 6 weeks, Jin was helping to retrain other pilots. He showed them how to get more performance from their ships without actually breaking them. The flight instructors started rewriting their training manuals. But the biggest surprise came during mixed-species team exercises. The training facility put different species together to see how they worked as units. Usually, this caused problems. Each species had evolved for different environments and different ways of thinking. Rock people like the Vrelki were strong but slow to make decisions. They preferred to think through every possibility before acting. Insect creatures worked well in groups, but could not adapt when their plans changed. Gas beings like Morton were very smart, but had trouble with physical tasks. The human recruits worked with everyone. When paired with rock people, they provided quick thinking and fast decisions. With insect groups, they helped adapt plans when situations changed. With gas beings, they handled the physical work, while the gas beings did the mental calculations. This should not be possible, reported Training Supervisor Nexal to his commanders. Humans adapt to every other species we pair them with. They seem to automatically fill in whatever skills their teammates are missing. He watched a training exercise where Dai, Hana, and Jin worked with a mixed team of 6 other species. The mission was to capture a fortified position defended by training robots. The rock soldier wanted to charge straight ahead using superior strength. The insect soldiers wanted to coordinate a complex attack from multiple directions. The gas being wanted to analyze the defenses and find weak points. The crystal warrior wanted to use energy weapons to break down the walls. Usually, mixed teams would argue about tactics until time ran out. This team was different because the humans listened to everyone, then found ways to use all the ideas together. We used the Crystal Warrior's energy weapons to create a distraction, Day explained to the team. While the defenders focus on that, the insect soldiers move into position for their coordinated attack. The rock soldier leads the main assault once everyone is ready. The gas being guides the whole operation from above where they can see everything. What about us humans? Asked Jin. We do whatever needs to be done that nobody else can do, Hana said. The attack worked perfectly. Every species got to use their natural abilities. The humans filled in the gaps and made sure everyone worked together smoothly. After 8 weeks of training, the instructors met to discuss their reports. They had never seen anything like the human recruits. They learned faster than any species. On record, said weapons instructor Kexalon. They understand concepts that should be completely foreign to them, added medical trainer Dr. Pilnex. They improve equipment that was designed by experts with centuries of experience, said Flight Instructor Yextor. But most importantly, said Training Supervisor Nexal, They make everyone around them better. Other species perform above their normal levels when working with humans. The reports went up the chain of command. Within days, new orders came. Back down. The human recruits were being reassigned to special operations. Their first mission would be a real combat situation against the Void Swarm. High Command wanted to see what these Deathworld recruits could really do when the fighting started. Day, Hana, and Jin packed their gear and prepared for deployment. They had no idea that their performance in training had changed how the entire galactic military thought about Deathworld species. They just knew they were ready to do their part in the war. The real test was about to begin. The asteroid mining facility looked like a metal flower blooming in space. Mining arms reached out from the central hub, cutting valuable metals from the floating rocks. It should have been a peaceful place. Instead, warning lights flashed red across every surface. The Void Swarm had found it. Squad leader Tixara briefed the rescue team on the transport ship. Her 4 arms gestured at a holographic display showing the facility layout. 47 miners trapped inside. The swarm attacked 6 hours ago and cut off all escape routes. Standard evacuation ships were destroyed. She looked at her mixed team of soldiers. 2 Vrelki rock warriors, 3 Kitheri with their tentacle arms, 1 gas being for technical support, and the 3 humans. It was not a large force for such. A dangerous mission. Our orders are simple, Tixara continued. Get in, retrieve the miners, destroy sensitive equipment, get out. Intelligence says we have maybe 4 hours before the main swarm force arrives. When that happens, nothing survives. Day raised his hand. What kind of defenses does the facility have? Basic security systems. A few mining lasers that can be used as weapons. Nothing designed for real combat. What about the swarm forces? Already there? Asked Hana. Scouts and advance units. Maybe 50 individual organisms. Still dangerous but manageable if we move fast and stay quiet. Jin studied the facility schematics. Those mining arms are still working. The power systems must be intact. Yes, but that does not help us. Mining equipment cannot fight the swarm. The transport ship docked with the facility's emergency airlock. Tixara led her team inside. The corridors were dark except for emergency lighting. Strange scratching sounds echoed from deeper in the facility. The swarm organisms were already spreading through the outer sections. Stay together, Tixara whispered. Move quietly. Avoid contact when possible. They reached the first checkpoint. The facility's security center had been torn apart. Claw marks covered the walls. 3 mining crew bodies lay on the floor, but they were not dead. They were changing. The swarm infection was turning them into something else. Hana knelt beside one of the infected miners. How long does the transformation take? 6 to 8 hours, said Morvex, the gas being on their team. Once it starts, there is no cure. That's what everyone thinks, Hana said softly. She took samples of the infection with her medical kit. But every biological process can be disrupted if you understand it. They moved deeper into the facility. The scratching sounds got louder. Soon they could see the source. Swarm organisms moved through the ventilation system like giant insects. They had too many legs and eyes that glowed green in the darkness. 47 miners in the central hub, Tixara reported through her radio. Sealed blast doors are holding, but not for long. The swarm is cutting through. One of the Vrelki warriors, a rock creature named Gexton, pointed his plasma rifle at the nearest swarm organism. We fight our way through. No, Day said quietly. That will bring them all down on us. We need a different approach. He studied the facility layout on his portable computer. Jin, can you access the mining control systems? Probably. Why? Those mining arms outside. They're designed to cut through solid rock. What happens if we turn them inward? Jin's eyes lit up with understanding. We turn the facility's own defenses against the swarm. While Jin worked on the computer systems, Hana continued studying the infected miners. She mixed chemicals from her medical kit with cleaning supplies from a maintenance closet. "What are you doing?" asked Kexney, one of the Kithri warriors. "The swarm infection rewrites genetic code," Hana explained, "but it needs specific proteins to work. If I can neutralize those proteins—" She held up a small container of liquid. "This might stop the transformation." Tixara watched her team work. This was not how military operations were supposed to go. Soldiers were meant to follow orders and stick to the plan. These humans kept changing the plan to match the situation. "Got it," Jin announced. "I have control of the mining systems, but there's a problem. The main swarm force is arriving early. We have maybe 30 minutes before they get here." Through the facility windows, they could see dark shapes moving between the asteroids. The main swarm fleet was coming fast. "We need to move now," Tixara ordered. "Forget the mining equipment. Get to the miners and evacuate." "Wait," Day said. "What? If we don't evacuate? What if we turn this place into a trap?" He pointed to the facility's schematics. "The central hub where the miners are hiding has the most powerful computers and equipment. That's what the swarm really wants. They're not just here to kill people. They want our technology." Hana looked up from her chemical work. "The infected. Miners could be saved if we can get the antidote to them fast enough. But moving them during evacuation might kill them anyway." Jin nodded along with their thinking. "And if we can control the mining arms, we can do a lot more damage to the swarm than just running away." Tixara stared at them. "You want to stay and fight? Against impossible odds? This is supposed to be a rescue mission, not a battle. Why?" "Can it be both?" Day asked. The next 20 minutes changed everything. Instead of evacuating, the team split up to prepare for the swarm's arrival. Jin reprogrammed the mining arms to target incoming ships instead of asteroids. Hana worked on mass-producing her antidote using the facility's medical bay. Day coordinated with the trapped miners through the radio to turn them into an organized defense force. The other alien soldiers watched in amazement. Gexton, the Vrelki warrior, helped Day move heavy equipment to create defensive positions. "Your species is very strange. Most creatures run from overwhelming enemies." "Running doesn't solve the problem," Day replied, setting up a plasma cannon. "It just moves the problem somewhere else." When the main swarm force arrived, they expected to find a defenseless mining facility. Instead, they found a coordinated ambush. The mining arms, designed to cut through solid rock, sliced through swarm ships like they were made of paper. The trapped miners had been organized into defensive positions with makeshift weapons. The infected crew members had been cured by Hana's antidote and were fighting alongside their rescuers. The battle lasted 3 hours. When it was over, the swarm force had been completely destroyed. Not a single miner had been lost. The facility was damaged but still operational. Most importantly, they had captured 12 live swarm organisms for study. "This is impossible," Tixara reported to High Command. "We were supposed to evacuate and run. Instead, we won a complete victory against superior forces." The response from headquarters was immediate. "How?" Tixara looked at the 3 humans cleaning their weapons and checking on the injured. The Deathworld recruits changed the mission parameters. They turned a rescue operation into a strategic victory. She watched Day explaining defensive tactics. To the rescued miners, she saw Hana treating wounded soldiers with medicines she had invented during the battle. She observed Jin teaching facility engineers how to modify their equipment for combat use. These humans do not think like other species, she continued her report. They do not accept that some situations are hopeless. They find ways to change hopeless situations into winning situations. High Command was silent for a long moment. Then, "Bring them back for debriefing, and bring the captured swarm specimens. This changes our understanding of what is possible in this war." As their transport ship left the asteroid facility, Day sat with his human teammates. "That went better than I expected." "The other species fought well once they understood the plan," Hana said. "They just needed someone to show them it was possible to win." Jin looked out the window at the destroyed swarm ships floating among the asteroids. "I wonder what our next mission will be." None of them realized that their actions had just rewritten galactic military doctrine. The idea that some battles could not be won was being questioned for the first time in centuries. The war against the Void Swarm was about to change in ways no one expected. High Command called it Operation Blackout. The official name made it sound important. The reality was simpler. It was a suicide mission disguised as reconnaissance. General Nexavar explained the situation to the assembled officers. The holographic display showed a massive structure floating in the Helios Nebula. It looked like a twisted combination of spaceship and living organism, dark metal mixed with pulsing flesh, weapon ports that breathed like mouths. "This is a Void Swarm breeding facility," the general said. "Intelligence estimates it produces 10,000 new organisms every day. We need to know how it works so we can develop countermeasures." The room was silent. Every officer understood what this meant. Get close to the most dangerous place in known space. Gather information. Try to survive long enough to report back. Most likely, die in the attempt. "Volunteers only," General Nexvar continued. "Standard deep reconnaissance protocols. Light weapons, minimal equipment, maximum stealth. Expected survival rate is less than 5%. Squadron leader Tixara raised one of her 4 arms. After the asteroid facility mission, she had been promoted and given command of a special operations unit. "My team will take the mission." "Your team includes the Deathworld recruits?" "Yes, sir. Day, Hana, and Jin, plus 2 new human specialists who arrived last week." The general nodded. Since the asteroid mission, requests for human soldiers had increased dramatically. Every commander wanted Deathworld recruits on their team. The problem was that Earth could only provide limited numbers of volunteers. "Brief me on the new humans." Bomb specializes in communications and computer systems. Tay is an explosives expert with training in chemistry. Both show the same unusual adaptability as the other humans. After the briefing, Tixara met with her expanded team. The 2 new humans looked very different from Day, Hana, and Jin, but they had the same alert intelligence in their eyes. Bomb was older, maybe 30 years old, with scars on his hands from working with electronic equipment. Tay was compact and moved with the careful precision of someone who worked with dangerous materials. "So we're going to sneak into a swarm breeding facility and take notes?" Bomb asked, studying the mission files. "That's the plan? Gather intelligence on their reproductive processes," Tixara confirmed. "Plant tracking devices for future orbital bombardment. Avoid contact with swarm forces. Extract if possible." "Extract if possible," Tay repeated. "That's a nice way of saying we probably won't make it back." Jin looked up from the technical specifications he was reading. The facility is powered by 3 fusion reactors. That seems like a lot of power just for making baby swarm creatures. Maybe they're making something bigger than babies, Day suggested. Hana was studying biological data on her portable computer. The breeding process requires massive amounts of genetic material. They must be harvesting DNA from captured species and combining it with their own. That explains why they take prisoners instead of just killing everyone, Baum said. They need live subjects for experimentation. The mission launched 3 days later. Their ship was a modified scout vessel designed for stealth operations. It could avoid most sensors, but it was lightly armed and had minimal defenses. If they were discovered, running was their only option. The Helios Nebula made navigation difficult. Gas clouds interfered with sensors and communications. Lightning storms could destroy unshielded electronics. It was the perfect place to hide. Something you did not want found. Facility dead ahead, Jin reported from the pilot's seat. It's bigger than the intelligence report suggested, maybe 3 times larger. Through the viewport, the breeding facility looked like a small moon made of nightmares. Organic tubes connected metal structures. Lights pulsed in patterns that hurt to watch. Ships moved in and out of docking bays that opened and closed like mouths. I count 47 ships, Day said, studying the sensor readings. Most are transport vessels, probably carrying genetic material from raids. But there are at least 12 warships providing security. Standard infiltration protocol says we land on the far side and work our way in through maintenance tunnels, Tixera said. Or we could try something different, Baum suggested. He was studying the communication signals coming from the facility. I'm picking up their internal network traffic. Their computer security is designed to keep information from getting out, not to keep infiltrators from getting in. What are you thinking? Asked Tay. What if we don't sneak in physically? What if we sneak into their computers first and learn how the place works? Then we go in with a real plan, instead of just wandering around hoping to find something important. For the next 6 hours, Baum worked on breaking into the swarm computer network. It was not easy. The swarm used biological computers that thought in ways very different from standard electronic systems. It's like trying to hack into a brain instead of a machine, he explained. But brains have patterns. Everything that thinks has to organize information somehow. While Baum worked on the computers, the others studied the facility from a distance. Jin mapped the external defenses and found weaknesses in their patrol patterns. Hana analyzed biological samples that the facility was dumping into space as waste products. Day and Tay planned demolition strategies in case they needed to cause damage. I'm in, Baum announced, and you're not going to believe what I found. The information was staggering. The breeding facility was not just making more swarm organisms, it was creating new types of organisms designed for specific purposes. Some were built for fighting in space, others were designed to survive on different kinds of planets. Some were made to infiltrate and spy on other species. They're building a custom army, Hana said, reading the genetic data. Every organism is designed for a specific role in their invasion plans. Look at this, Jin added, studying facility. Schematics that Baum had downloaded. The 3 fusion reactors don't just power the breeding process, they're also powering a massive transmitter that sends signals to swarm forces across the galaxy. It's a command and control center, Day realized. They coordinate their entire war effort from here. Tay was looking at the chemical processes used in the breeding chambers. The genetic modification requires very specific enzyme reactions. If you could disrupt those reactions, you could shut down their entire breeding program, Hana finished. The mission had changed. Instead of just gathering intelligence, they now had a chance to strike a devastating blow against the swarm war machine. But it would require them to get inside the facility and access the breeding chambers directly. This is far beyond our mission. Parameters, Tixara said. We should report what we've learned and let High Command plan a proper assault. By the time they organize an assault, the facility might be moved, Day pointed out. The swarm knows we're looking for their major installations. They won't keep this place in one location forever. Plus, we have advantages right now that a big military force wouldn't have, Baum added. I'm inside their computer systems. They don't know we're here. We can hit them before they can organize a defense. Tixara looked at her team. The smart, military decision was to retreat and report. The safe decision was to stick to the original mission. But these humans had a way of turning impossible situations into opportunities. What do you need? She asked. The infiltration took 12 hours. They entered through a waste disposal system that Baum had mapped using the facility computers. The humans moved through the organic corridors like they belonged there, adapting to the strange environment with disturbing ease. Tay planted his chemical bombs in the breeding chambers. The explosives were designed to release agents that would destroy the specific enzymes needed for genetic modification. Hana collected samples of the new organism types for study back at headquarters. Jin sabotaged the fusion reactors to overload in a cascade failure. Baum planted viruses in the communication systems that would spread false orders throughout the swarm network. Day coordinated everything while monitoring for security patrols. We have maybe 20 minutes before someone notices the sabotage, he reported. Time to go. They escaped the same way they had entered, through systems the swarm considered too disgusting for security monitoring. Their ship was clear of the facility when the explosions began. The breeding facility tore itself apart. Fusion reactors overloaded and melted through containment barriers. Breeding chambers filled with toxic chemicals that killed everything inside. The communication array broadcast conflicting orders that sent swarm forces across the galaxy chasing false targets. Mission accomplished, Tixara reported to High Command. Breeding facility destroyed. Enemy command and control network disrupted. Intelligence gathered on new swarm organism types. The response was immediate. How is that possible? Your mission was reconnaissance only. Tixara looked at the 5 humans on her team. They were already planning their next operation, discussing ways to improve their infiltration techniques. The humans do not accept mission limitations, she reported. They redefine mission success to achieve maximum strategic impact. High Command was quiet for a long moment. Then, prepare a full briefing. We need to understand how Deathworld recruits operate. This level of success should not be possible with such small teams. As their ship jumped to hyperspace, Day sat with his teammates and reviewed what they had learned. The Swarm The emergency session of the Galactic Military Council had never seen anything like it. Representatives from 12 species filled the circular chamber, their various forms creating a strange assembly of crystals, gas clouds, insect shapes, and tentacled beings. At the center sat General Nexivar, his 4 arms spread across the command table covered with reports. In 6 months, the general began, human combat effectiveness has exceeded all predictions by factors we cannot explain. 3 successful missions where failure was expected. 0 casualties. Strategic objectives achieved that were beyond the scope of original mission parameters. Admiral Kextana of the Kithari species raised a tentacle. Perhaps we underestimated Deathworld species in general. The humans may simply be tougher than we calculated. "It is not about being tough," interrupted Dr. Velnix from the Nexari Medical Corps. "I have studied the human physiology. Yes, they are durable, but their real advantage is mental, not physical." The Admiral's tentacles curled in skepticism. "Mental how?" Dr. Velnix activated a holographic display showing brain scans. "Human neural patterns are unlike any species we have encountered. Most intelligent life develops specialized thinking. We excel in our particular areas of expertise. Humans seem to excel at changing their areas of expertise based on situational requirements." Fleet Commander Gixmore of the Vrelki spoke up, his rocky voice grinding through the chamber's speakers. "My warriors have trained with the humans. They do not follow standard combat doctrine. They create new doctrine during each battle. That should lead to chaos and failure," Admiral Kexitana pointed out. "Military effectiveness depends on predictable procedures and clear chains of command." "Observe," General Nexvar said, activating combat recordings from recent missions. The hologram showed Day, Hana, Jin, Bomb, and Tai working with alien soldiers in various situations. "Watch how they adapt their roles based on team composition and mission requirements." The assembled officers watched human soldiers switch from assault troops to technical specialists, to medics to engineers, sometimes within minutes of each other. They saw alien soldiers performing above their normal capabilities when working, alongside humans. "This is impossible," muttered Science Advisor Morkex, a floating gas being. "Specialization is the foundation of advanced civilization. You cannot be expert at everything." "The humans are not expert at everything," Dr. Velnix corrected. "They are expert at becoming expert at whatever the situation requires. Their learning speed is unprecedented." General Nexvar turned to a new section of reports. "Which brings us to the training programs. Squadron Leader Tix Ara has been conducting experimental sessions where humans teach their methods to other species. The results are unusual." The display showed training footage from the past month. Human soldiers worked with mixed groups of alien recruits, not teaching specific skills, but teaching approaches to problem solving. "They do not teach what to think," observed Commander Pexley of the insect-like Mordal. "They teach how to think differently." In the footage, Day stood before a mixed class of alien soldiers. "Your species all evolved to be very good at specific things," he was saying. "That is an advantage in stable situations, but war is not stable. Everything changes. So you need to be ready to change too." A Vrelki recruit raised a massive stone arm. "But our military doctrine has worked for thousands of years. Why should we change proven methods?" "Because the enemy adapts," Day replied. "The Void Swarm learns from every battle. If we keep using the same tactics, they will find ways to defeat us. We have to evolve faster than they do." The training footage showed the results. Alien soldiers who had learned human approaches performed better in unpredictable situations. They showed more initiative. They found creative solutions to complex problems. Most importantly, they stopped assuming that some battles could not be won. "The effectiveness improvements are measurable," reported Training Director Kexnor. "Mixed units with human advisors achieve objectives 37%, more often than standard units. Casualties are reduced by 22%. Mission completion times are 41% faster." Fleet Commander Gixmore leaned forward, his crystal body reflecting the chamber lights. "But what does this mean for our overall strategy? We have maybe 200 human soldiers in a military force of 12 million. How can such small numbers make a significant difference in a galactic war? General Nexivar had been waiting for this question. Because they are changing how we think about warfare itself. Watch this tactical analysis. The display showed a simulation of traditional galactic military strategy against the Void Swarm. Massive fleets engaging in direct combat, heavy casualties on both sides, gradual territorial losses as swarm numbers overwhelmed Allied forces. Standard. Projection. War duration of 15 to 20 years. Expected outcome. 40% chance of Allied victory. Acceptable casualty rates. 60 to 70% of military forces. He switched to a new simulation. Revised strategy incorporating human tactical innovations. Small unit operations targeting key swarm infrastructure. Disruption of command and control systems. Psychological warfare designed to exploit swarm collective behavior weaknesses. The new projection was dramatically different. War duration, 3 to 5 years. Expected outcome, 85% chance of Allied victory. Acceptable casualty rates, 15 to 20% of military forces. The chamber fell silent. The difference was staggering. Admiral Kextana's tentacles writhed with agitation. These projections assume we can replicate human methods across our entire military structure. Is that realistic? Dr. Velnix answered. We have been studying this question intensively. Human cognitive patterns cannot be replicated in other species. Our brains are structured differently. But human approaches can be learned and adapted to other forms of intelligence. She activated medical scans showing brain activity in alien soldiers before and after human training. The neural pathways actually change. Exposure to human problem-solving methods creates new connections in alien minds. We become more flexible in our thinking. Science advisor Morkex pulsed with interest. You are describing evolutionary change accelerated by cultural contact. This is unprecedented in known biology. Which brings us to the central question, General Nexivar said. How do we integrate human methods into standard military doctrine without losing the advantages that make them effective? The debate that followed lasted for hours. Some officers wanted to create human-led elite units for special operations. Others proposed putting humans in advisory roles throughout the military hierarchy. A few suggested completely restructuring military training around human educational methods. Finally, Fleet Commander Gixmore posed the crucial question. What do the humans themselves think we should do? We asked them, General Nexivar replied. Their answer was typical for humans. They said we should do whatever works best for winning the war. He activated a recording of a meeting with the human soldiers. Day, Hannah, Jin, Bomb, and Tay sat around a conference table with senior military officers. We do not want special treatment, Day was saying. We just want to contribute effectively to the war effort. But your methods are clearly superior to standard procedures, an officer pointed out. Should we not focus military resources on expanding human involvement? Hannah shook her head. Our methods work for us because of how we grew up on Earth. Other species have their own advantages that we cannot replicate. The goal should be combining advantages, not replacing one with another. Jin nodded along. Every species we have worked with has capabilities that amazed us. Rock people are incredibly strong and patient. Insect soldiers coordinate better than any human team could. Gas beings can calculate things we cannot even understand. The trick is finding ways for everyone to use their strengths together. Bomb leaned forward. On Earth, we have a saying. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. This war will be won by going far together. Tay added, plus, focusing too much on human methods might make the military predictable again. The swarm adapts to whatever we do. We need to keep changing and evolving our approaches. The recording ended. General Nexvar looked around the chamber at the assembled officers. The humans refuse to be treated as superior to other species. They insist that their value comes from collaboration, not domination. Admiral Kextana was quiet for a long moment. They are teaching us to think like them, not just in tactics, but in fundamental approaches to cooperation and problem-solving. Is that a problem? Asked Dr. Velnix. I am not sure, the Admiral admitted. But it is certainly changing everything we thought we knew about military organization and species interaction. General Nexvar stood up, his forearms spread in a gesture of decision. Recommendation approved for full integration protocol. Human advisory positions throughout the command structure. Mixed species training programs expanded to all military installations. Special operations doctrine revised to incorporate human strategic approaches. He paused and looked at each officer in turn. The war against the Void Swarm is about to change in ways we cannot fully predict. But for the first time since the conflict began, I believe we can actually win. As the officers filed out of the chamber, many wondered if they were making the right choice. The Void Swarm mothership was the size of a small moon. It moved through space like a living nightmare, its dark surface pulsing with organic lights. Sensor readings showed it contained over 10 million swarm organisms, weapons that could destroy. Entire fleets and technology stolen from hundreds of conquered worlds. It was heading straight for the galactic core, where the major homeworlds of 12 species waited defenseless. Admiral Kextana stood in the command center of the Allied fleet. 2,000 ships from across the galaxy had gathered for this final battle. It should have been an inspiring sight. Instead, it felt like watching a funeral procession. Standard tactical analysis complete, reported Fleet Coordinator Morvex. Recommended approach, direct fleet engagement using superior numbers. Projected casualties, 62% of Allied forces. Probability of success, 38%. The numbers were devastating. Even if they won, the cost would cripple galactic civilization for generations. Alternative analysis using human strategic input? Asked the Admiral. General Nexvar stepped forward. Over the past 6 months, human advisory methods had been integrated throughout the military command structure. The results had been impressive. In smaller operations, this would be the ultimate test. The human team proposes asymmetric assault targeting the mothership's biological systems, he reported. Instead of fighting 10 million organisms, we turn the mothership's own biology against itself. Admiral Kextana looked at the tactical display. Explain. Day, Hana, Jin, Bomb, and Tai entered the command center. Around them, alien officers from 12 different species waited to hear their plan. The weight of galactic civilization rested on 5 humans from a backwater deathworld. The mothership is not just a ship, Hana began, activating her biological analysis display. It is a living organism that uses technology. It has a nervous system, a circulatory system, and an immune system. All of those can be attacked. Jin pulled up engineering schematics. The ship's power systems are integrated with its biological functions. If we can disrupt the biological processes, the technology fails too. Bomb showed communication intercepts from the mothership. The 10 million organisms inside are controlled by a central intelligence network, but networks can be hacked. I have been developing viruses specifically designed for swarm biocomputers. Tay displayed chemical analysis data. The ship's organic structure depends on specific protein chains. I can synthesize compounds that will break down those proteins at the molecular level. Day tied it all together with a tactical overview. Instead of fighting the ship, we make the ship fight itself. Small teams infiltrate the mothership and attack its biological systems from inside. The organism dies, taking all 10 million swarm creatures with it. The command center was silent. Finally, Fleet Commander Gixmore spoke up. This plan requires soldiers to get inside the most dangerous vessel in known space and survive long, enough to deploy biological weapons against a hive mind that can adapt to any threat. Yes, Day said simply. The infiltration teams would face impossible odds with no chance of extraction. Probably, Hana agreed. The entire strategy depends on assumptions about swarm biology that cannot be tested until we are already committed to the attack. True, Jin acknowledged. Admiral Kextana studied the 5 humans. Are you volunteering for this suicide mission? We are volunteering to win the war, Baum corrected. Whether we survive is less important than whether civilization survives. Tay nodded. On Earth, we have a military saying, death before dishonor. But we prefer a different one, victory before death. The Admiral looked around the command center. Officers from 12 species waited for her decision. The safe choice was standard fleet engagement. High casualties but predictable outcomes. The human choice was completely unpredictable, but offered the possibility of total victory. How many infiltration teams do you need? She asked. 15 teams of mixed human-alien composition, Day replied. Each team targets a specific biological system. Multiple redundancy in case some teams are stopped. And the main fleet? Provides distraction and support, Jin said. Keep the mothership's attention focused on external threats while the infiltration teams work inside. Admiral Kexitana made her choice. Approved. All fleet commanders prepare for Operation Heartbreak. Infiltration teams launch in 6 hours. The preparation was frantic. 15 small ships were modified for stealth infiltration. Mixed teams of humans and aliens trained together, learning each other's capabilities. Weapons and equipment were customized for fighting inside a living organism the size of a moon. Day found himself working with Vrelki warrior Gexton, Kithari engineer Pexley, and Nexari medic Dr. Velnix. It was a strange team, but they had learned to trust each other over months of training together. Are you afraid? Dr. Velnix asked as they prepared their equipment. Day considered the question. Yes, but fear is just information. It tells you that something is dangerous and you need to be careful. It does not tell you to give up. Gexton checked his plasma weapons. My people believe that death in battle brings honor, but I would prefer victory without death. That is what we are working toward, Pexley said, adjusting her technical equipment with precise tentacle movements. The humans have taught us that impossible situations are just problems that require creative solutions. The 15 infiltration ships launched while the main fleet engaged the mothership's external defenses. The battle was massive and terrible. Ships died in explosions that lit up space like new stars. But the fleet held together and kept the mothership's attention focused outward. Inside the mothership, the infiltration teams faced horrors beyond imagination. Corridors made of living flesh, swarm organisms that grew from the walls to attack, intruders, biological defenses that adapted to every weapon and tactic, but the human-trained teams adapted faster. When plasma weapons stopped working, they used improvised explosives. When stealth failed, they fought with coordinated tactics. When their original plans fell apart, they created new plans on the spot. Day's team reached the central nervous system. After 4 hours of fighting through organic corridors, the chamber was enormous, filled with pulsing neural networks that controlled the entire mothership. "Biological weapon deployed," Hana reported, injecting her custom virus into the neural networks. Across the mothership, other teams reached their targets. Jin's group sabotaged the circulatory system. Bomb's team infected the communication networks. Tay's squad deployed molecular bombs in the structural supports. The mothership began to die from the inside out. Its own immune system turned against it. Its nervous system sent conflicting signals that paralyzed its weapons. Its circulatory system carried poison instead of nutrients. But the swarm organisms fought desperately to save their host. The infiltration teams found themselves trapped inside a dying moon-sized creature that was collapsing around them. "Extraction impossible," reported Team 7. "Mothership's biological systems are shutting down too fast. We are trapped, all." "Teams report similar status," came responses from across the dying ship. "Extraction routes blocked. Structural collapse imminent." Admiral Kextana monitored the situation from the fleet command ship. "Pull back the main fleet. The mothership is breaking apart." "What about the infiltration teams?" asked General Nexavar. The Admiral was quiet for a moment. They knew this was a possibility. Honor their sacrifice. But inside the mothership, the humans were not ready to accept death. "Emergency protocol activated," Day announced over the team communication network. "All teams converge on my location. We are leaving together or not at all." What followed was the most desperate hour of the war. 15 teams fought their way through collapsing biological structures while the mothership died around them. They used every piece of equipment, every weapon, every trick they had learned. They reached Day's location with minutes to spare. The central nervous system chamber had access to the mothership's escape pod systems, organic vessels that the swarm leadership would use to abandon ship. "Hijacking swarm escape pods," Jin reported as he worked frantically on alien biotechnology. "If we can convince the ship's dying brain that we are important swarm organisms." The escape pods launched just as the mothership's core systems failed completely. 73 humans and aliens crammed into vessels designed for swarm organisms, watched through biomechanical viewports as the mothership tore itself apart. The explosion was visible across 3 star systems. 10 million swarm organisms died instantly. The most dangerous weapon in known space became debris floating in empty space. "This is impossible," Admiral Kextana said as rescue ships recovered the escape pods. The casualty projections showed 62% fleet losses. We lost 3%. Complete victory was not even considered as a possibility. General Nexavar watched as human and alien soldiers emerged from the recovered pods. They were exhausted, injured, but alive. More importantly, they were already talking about what they had learned and how to improve the tactics for next time. "The humans do not accept limitations that other species consider absolute," he reported. "They have taught us that victory is always possible if you are willing to change your definition of how victory can be achieved." The war against the Void Swarm was over. Their mothership was destroyed. Their command structure was